Hi! So, the timing to start these series of YouTube videos is because it's the off season. It's the time that we take to look back at our armor, our weapons, look back at our videos and see what we need to learn or work on, blah blah blah. So, now is a good time to start catching you up on the 3 years it has taken me to get here, to even get onto the field. Before I can even tell you that, you need to understand what it means to be deaf. What it means to be deaf in the SCA, and what it means to be deaf fighter. Easy one. My ears do not work. Not like hearing people. But what does that mean really? So you can't shout at me if I'm looking the other way. Right? But it's more than that. My whole way of communicating is different. I look at body language and it means grammar to me. And we're going to talk about that more when I have examples of when my understanding of body language fails me. The other problem is how deaf hear. We need to discuss a word right now. Listen. Yes, the deaf can listen. We can. Just like everybody else, we don't always. But we can. Listening is a skill. It's a focus. It means you're communicating with the other person and focusing on what you're being told and how you respond back. That's not dependent on what language you speak. Everybody can do that. But what is sound? Because a problem I have as a fighter is my armor deafens me. I'm pretty independent. I can look and I can see how things happen in my environment, and that tells me what sounds are happening. I can look at a tree and imagine the whispering of the wind going through the branches. I can do that. It's just as poetic to the deaf in motion, because our sound is motion. Like, that's physics, that's science. What is sound? Sound is a disturbance of molecules at a point. So something happens. Boom, you dropped an egg. The air around the point where the egg drops, it goes poof. It's like throwing a rock into a pool of water. It'll go in and boop, rings. And they get big. Right? Same thing happens. The air, poof, and the air makes rings, but they're ball shaped. It's 360 degrees. It's all the way around. What stops it's the floor. Poof. Those air molecules are going fast because they've been hit and they're pushed. They're disturbed. So your ears that are perfectly shaped to catch those rings, catch it. When you look at those rings coming at you, it makes a wave. The compressed part at the bottom versus that ring up at the top, up and down, crest and valley, those are called sound waves. Your ear catches it, they're physical vibrations, and it hits the inner ear, and it gets transformed into electrical currents that go to your brain through the auditory nerve. And those signals tell your brain that it's a meow, or a woof woof, or a psh of an egg hitting the floor. For a deaf person, it's different. We get the same information, we just receive it differently. We feel the egg hit the floor. The vibrations go to our feet and come up, and we feel the frequency of that sound wave. And we know to look for something small that just hit the floor. Oh, look, I dropped an egg. I receive sounds through my skin. A lot of the times that's through my feet. Armor blocks that. I can't feel through any parts. Not my hands, which I get a lot of information from. Not my feet, which tells me where the ground is. As a late deafened adult, I have equilibrium issues because I am disconnected from how my body learned to have equilibrium. So I'm clumsy. It doesn't mean I can't walk. I walk fine. But I'm clumsy. I have to use my vision to see where things connect to the ground. Make a plane. And then I can see where I can walk and where it's bent. The helms, a lot of the times it's hard to see that. You can't see the ground. And if you can see the ground, you really have no peripheral. And I use my peripheral to see everything in my environment. So the armor, it makes it hard because I'm deaf to even walk sometimes. Other times it blocks just so much of my vision that I can't communicate anymore. I can't read lips in a helm. You block enough of my vision, and it doesn't matter how open your face is to me, I still can't communicate because there's not enough of my own vision to put together a complete enough picture. So, those things have been a challenge, and I've been working really hard on it, and I have a few things in a later video that I've discovered that I'll share with you. Kind of excited. One of the other things about being deaf that is hard is explaining communication. Like, it's hard to make people understand why I'm having communication issues, or why I can lip read that person but not that one. So I want to take like a minute and kind of explain how this magic called lip reading, how that all works. So basically, the words that you make on your mouth, they're pictures. And I memorize those pictures. But those pictures have to have context. If they're not conceptually fitting, I can't fill in the English other words to make a sentence. So then I lose what we're talking about. Other times, even if we can see, If I can't see your face and get feedback, I have no idea if I'm talking, like physically speaking, loud enough that you can hear me. So I don't even know if we're having a conversation if I don't get affirmative body language. And that's hard to explain to people. And fighters, they don't have the mental wherewithal for that on the field. These are things that really should be discussed and made known before we start practice or when I go to a class, so that when we're out on the field at a war, we're not trying to educate. And it never fails. Every time I go to a war, I am educating on the field. And that's okay. We need to educate. I just wish there was a way that we could practice communication as fighters, so that when, even new fighters, I see them really struggle in how to read body language. And I know how to do that. So I can understand why, if I'm having problems and I understand how body language works, how a new fighter might find communication on the field between their unit difficult at best. So there it is. My problems being deaf in the SCA and as a fighter especially. Next videos to come, I'll fill in how I made my way to the field. Thanks, guys.